Hello dear students, welcome. I hope that the previous video based on this chapter Landscape of the Soul has made the outline and the main points clear to you. So let's get into the chapter and have some discussion and the detailed explanation. So this is chapter number 4, Landscape of the Soul, written by Nathalie Trouveroy. Notice these expressions in the text, infer their meanings from the context. So the first expression is anecdote. It means explanation, especially of real persons or objects. Second is delicate realism. It means that the art in the painting, that the objects are so delicately drawn that it seems to be real. Third is figurative painting. It means the painting of real objects, visual objects which are there seen in the nature and all around. It's not about abstract painting. It's the opposite of abstract painting. Next we have illusionistic likeness. It means similarity with the real objects. It's so similar that we find that the things are real, not painting, which creates the illusion of being real. Next is a conceptual space. This expression is actually a geometric source which tells us about dimensions. As per the paintings are concerned, this conceptual space means that points are compared with objects. Okay, so it basically tells us about dimensions. A wonderful old tale is told about the painter Wu Daozi. So Wu Daozi was a very famous painter, and this is one of the old tale about him, who lived in the 8th century. His last painting was a landscape. This was his last painting, please notice. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong to decorate a palace wall. The master here refers to the painter Wu Daozi, had hidden his work behind a screen so only the emperor would see it. So when he brought his painting to show it to the Tang Emperor Xuanzong, he covered it with a screen. He did not want to show it to anybody else. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. So these were all there, the part of the painting, and the Tang Emperor was so impressed that he talked about these things. "Look, sire," said the painter. Then painter spoke. He said, "Sir, look. In this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." So now the painter told something about the painting which was not actually seen by the Tang Emperor. The painter said, "Sir, look. There is a cave at the foot of the mountain, and in this cave lives a spirit." The painter clapped his hands, and the entrance to the cave opened. See, the painter clapped, and the cave in the painting, the door of the cave opened. The inside is splendid beyond anything words can convey. Painter said further to Tang Emperor that, "Sir, the inside of this cave is very beautiful. I cannot convey it in words. Please let me show your majesty the way." The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. When Wu Daozi entered the cave, the door closed, means Tang Emperor could not go inside. And before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, astonished, surprised, utter, speak. So, and before the surprised emperor could say anything or could move, the painting had vanished from the wall. It had disappeared. Not a trace of Wu Daozi's brush was left. Not even a single mark was left. And the artist was never seen again in this world. Okay, so he was lost with his painting. Such stories played an important part in China's classical education. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. So, in Chinese classical education, art was considered this way. Contrast this story, contrast opposite. This story, the story we have read about how the painter showed the painting and how it happened. So, opposite to this story, or another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting. Okay, and contrast to this story, some other painter was there. He didn't draw the eye of a dragon. He thought that the dragon would fly away. With an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of Western painting. This is all about Western painting. So here in Western painting, the dragon was clearly drawn. Everybody could see what the painting was about. But if we talk about Chinese concept, that was the painting made by Wu Deozi, it was about so many things, and the painter only knew the real thing about the painting. The audience, like the Tang Emperor Xuanzong, was busy in admiring the other things, but the painting importantly was about the cave, which was showed by the painter. So if the painter would not guide in the Chinese classics, if the painter would not guide us, we would not be able to understand the painting. But in Western painting, the painting is so clear that you need not the direction of the painter. I hope it is clear to you. In Chinese paintings, you need the direction of the painters to understand the painting. But in Western paintings, the painting is so clear that you need not any direction. You can understand it just giving it a look. Next, in 15th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quinton Metzys fell in love with a painter's daughter. So Quinton Metzys was a blacksmith basically, but he fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father, means the painter, would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession. So Quinton sneaked to go silently, sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such delicate realism that the master tried to fly it away before he realized what had happened. So the fly was so realistically drawn or painted that the painter himself thought it was a real fly and he tried to swat it away. Quinton was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve: a perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe and the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. So this is the difference between Europe and Asia. In Europe, the paintings are like illusionistic likeness. They are so similar with real things. But if we talk about Asia, then it talks about inner life. Like in the painting of Wu Deozi, that cave was actually representative of the inner beauty of the painting, or the inner life of human being, how it is important. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. He was just able to admire the birds and the mountains and the men and everything else, the cave. But the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. That was Wu Deozi who told him the true meaning of his work. That was the cave, and to go inside and to enjoy the inner beauty. That was told by the painter Wu Deozi. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. So the emperor knew everything about his area, his territory, but the artist knows about the inner beauty or the inner art. Let me show the way, the Dao. Wu Deozi said. Dao actually means a word that means both the path or the method. The one who shows, who gives the direction is the meaning of Dao. So Wu Deozi, his name also included that direction. And the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal. The painting was made to enjoy the inner cave, the inner beauty, and Wu Daozi was there. So his goal was achieved beyond any material appearance. There was no outer appearance of the painting, but yes, Wu Daozi was successful in his goal, that he reached to that inner world. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view. Okay, it doesn't mean to paint or draw the things as they are, or to have the illusionistic likeness. Classical Chinese में ऐसा नहीं होता है. As would a Western figurative painting, but in a Western figurative painting, these are about real things. Whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle, the Chinese painter doesn't choose a single viewpoint. The European painter wants you to look at the painting as he looks at it. He wants to tell you the way. But the Chinese painter has so much on the plate, has so many things on the painting, that it's your wish how you want to look at it, from where it is totally dependent on your viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point. If we talk about Chinese landscape, it's not a real one. There are so many things, and you can enter into any point. Then travel in it. You can enter from the bottom, you can enter from the left or right or up. But if we talk about European, they make it realistic. So you will everybody look it in the same way. If the fly is there, everybody look at the fly. But if it is a Chinese painting, someone can see the men first, or somebody can see the grass first. So it doesn't depend on the painter, it depends on the audience in Chinese painting. So his landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. An artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down and then back again in a leisurely movement. It is on just your own way. This is even more true in the case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. If we talk about the horizontal scroll in Chinese landscape, then if we start from the bottom, we see and enjoy one thing, then we come to another, and then we come to another, and we just come to dimensions. Like if there is the scenery, hills are there, then there is sky, then there is space, or in between there is just white color, white empty space. So we can feel those dimensions. It also requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting. So it completely depends on the audience. A participation which is physical as well as mental. To understand Chinese landscape, everybody should be physically and mentally present. The Chinese painter doesn't want you to borrow his eyes, he wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. So in Chinese paintings, the landscape is said to be of inner one, like a spiritual connection it seems to have. And now ways to say how are you. We can ask it, how's everything? How are you doing? What's up? How have you been? What's new? How do you do? How are things going? In this way, you can ask somebody, how is he? Other ways to say well done, we can say it like good job, great work, first class job, perfect, impressive, professional as usual, bravo, or we can say triple A. So you can use these expressions. Ways to respond to how are you. When somebody asks you how are you, we have so typical a line that is I'm fine. 99% people respond in this way, I'm fine. But we can say it like I'm good, I'm fine, I'm well, I'm okay. If you are not well, you can say not so well. Or I would be lying if I said I'm fine, means I'm not fine. So you can say in this way, I would be lying if I said I'm fine. We'll say so far so good, or not too bad. So in this way you can respond to how are you. At the place of just I'm fine, you can go with these phrases. Last one, ways to say calm down. If somebody is going through that tough time and he is very angry or upset and you want to console him, you can say relax. You can say take it easy, chill out, just let it go, or take a deep breath, give it a rest, or slow down. So these also phrases can be used when you want to say somebody to calm down. Please note down these phrases, expressions in your notebook. These are really going to be very helpful for you whenever you are there and you're communicating in English. These are really going to help you a lot. Have a good day.